Most Reverend Dr. Alexander Ibezim laments over the increasing rate of sexual exploitation of children in the country. Anambra State government says it won't risk the life of children and students by reopening schools during the coronavirus pandemic that has infected over 10,000 people in Nigeria. Italy reopens to travelers from Europe 3 months after the country went into coronavirus lockdown. Hello and welcome. It is the news of the hour. I am Zubechi Frank. The Archbishop Ecclesiastical Province of the Niger and Bishop of Anglican Diocese of Awka, the Most Reverend Dr. Alexander Ibezim, has lamented the increasing rate of sexual exploitation of children in the country. He also expressed sadness over the trafficking of young girls to places where they were forced into prostitution and other abusive treatments by criminal-minded elements in the society. The cleric's views were contained in a statement during his sermon to mark the 2020 Children's Day and Anglican Children Ministry ACM Sunday, which was also the Pentecost Sunday. He called on the government at all levels and its agencies to step up fights to end the evil being perpetrated against children, especially young girls. Archbishop Ibezim described men who engage children in prostitution as heartless beasts who are not worthy to live among honest and God-fearing people. He therefore warned parents to be mindful of companies their children keep to safeguard them from sexual slavery and prostitution, which could endanger their lives and badly affect their future. Well, as part of the commemoration of this year's Pentecost, the Diocese of Owerri, in a groundbreaking event, has named one of its churches after the vital Christian season. The church, which is located at New Owerri on the New Owerri Archdeaconry, was originally called St. John's Anglican Chapel, but has been renamed Anglican Church of the Pentecost by the diocesan bishop, the Right Reverend Chukwuma Okpara. During the inaugural service of the church, which can also be called Pentecostal Anglican Church, Bishop Okpara posted the Reverend Fortune Oji and Evangelist Loveday Ihanacho as the first ministers.
In authority of God, we, Chukwuma Chinekezi Okpara, by divine permission, the Lord Bishop, Anglican Diocese of Owerri. This church, St. John's Chapel, henceforth, will be known and called Anglican Church of the Pentecost, also known as Pentecostal Anglican Church. In the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit.
Christians have been urged to make themselves available for the Holy Spirit to work in them at a time like this, because it is with the power of the Holy Spirit one can overcome COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this was the assertion of the Bishop of the Diocese of Ikwerre, the Right Reverend Dr. Blessing Enyindaya, in his sermon at St. Peter's Cathedral, Isiokpo, in Rivers State. According to the cleric, the Holy Spirit is the source through which the Christian believer can overcome this deadly pandemic, stressing that the power of the Holy Spirit is greater than the power of the coronavirus. So Christians should not be afraid, but should be careful and stay safe. He called on believers of Christ to show love to one another, this time as a sign of the Holy Spirit in them, and encouraged the church members not to use the pandemic to go on spiritual holiday. Rather, they be connected to God in the church and outside the church. As Nigeria celebrates 21 years of uninterrupted democracy, Nigerian leaders have been advised to allow themselves to be guided based on the wordings and provision of the Nigerian Constitution, as that will help the nation rise to a greater height. Now, a public analyst, Barrister Kelechi Nwokogo, gave this advice when he appeared as a guest on ACNN's program Christians in Politics.
My advice to Nigeria leaders and, of course, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari is to allow themselves to be guided based on the text of the Constitution. When you look at the Chapter 2 of our Constitution, which provides for fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. You find out that there are the objectives, the aspirations of our country are being highlighted on this particular chapter of the Constitution. Our economic objectives as a nation, our social objectives, our educational objectives, our political objectives, foreign objectives, and all that. National ethics and, of course, duties of citizens. They are all highlighted. So when our leaders allow themselves to be guided by these wordings and provisions of the Constitution, I believe as a nation will rise to greater heights. Will rise to greater heights. And of course, like famous Mahatma Gandhi rightly said, we should, as much as possible, try to be the change we want to see.
Christians in Politics is a must-watch program on ACNNTV every Tuesday by 11 a.m. You're still watching the news on the hour from ACNNTV. And still to come, some global companies considering shifting some of their treasury operations out of Hong Kong. Stay tuned for more details on that.
Why do we fall ill? Is it possible to stay without falling ill? Is God interested in our health? Can we get access to cheaper health anywhere? Do you want tips on how to stay healthy? Then join me, Angela Weze, on Health Watch every Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. with repeat broadcasts on Thursday at 2 p.m. and Saturday at 1:30 p.m. as health experts provide answers to your questions on how to remain healthy physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually here on. God bless you.
You are welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. For more on our top stories, please visit our website at acnntv.com or our social media platforms on facebook.com or youtube.com/acnntv. To be up to date with our news and other programs, download the VM Africa app from Android and iOS stores. The federal government has reduced the 37 billion naira budget for the renovation of the National Assembly complex to 27.7 billion naira. The federal government in the 2020 revised budget proposal cut 9.3 billion naira from the budget for the renovation of the National Assembly complex. The renovation of the complex at the initial cost of 37 billion naira, which is to be executed by the Federal Capital Territory Administration, attracted criticisms from a large section of Nigerians last year. However, following the drop in the price of crude oil and a fall in the projected government revenue, it was learned that the federal government decided to reduce the budget for the renovation. In the proposed revised budget, while the National Assembly complex renovation budget was reduced to 27.7 billion naira, a reduction of 25.1%, the Basic Health Care Provision Fund, which is meant to cater for all the primary health care centers across the 774 local government areas in the country, was significantly reduced by 44.4 billion naira to 25.5 billion naira. A decrease of more than 42.5%. The Universal Basic Education Fund was also reduced significantly from 111.7 billion naira to 51.1 billion naira by more than 54.2%, according to the documents obtained by Dataflight, an open organization. The President, Muhammadu Buhari, had last week presented the 2020 Appropriation Act Amendment Bill to the National Assembly, which both the Senate and the House passed for second reading same day. Buhari explained that the amendment became necessary in view of the sharp decline in crude oil prices and the cut in Nigeria's crude oil production quota occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. Oyo State government has informed residents of the state that the ban placed on religious gatherings is still in force. Now, the state's COVID-19 task force headed by the state governor, Engineer Seyi Makinde, made this declaration. The task force noted that it has not relaxed the ban on religious activities and the curfew imposed as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. It added that the task force was still evaluating the situation in the state, but would not be able to follow the decision by the presidential task force, which relaxed the ban on religious gatherings and the curfew. It explained that the position was informed by the ongoing risk situation analysis being undertaken by a team of experts. The task force explained also that the 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew earlier imposed on the state as a result of the ravaging pandemic also remains in force until further notice. It noted that this is because the task force is awaiting a risk situation analysis report by a team of experts earlier commissioned to do so. And according to them, the Oyo State COVID-19 task force wishes to alert the public that the ban on religious gatherings remains in force in the states. Well, more news on the relaxation of the lockdown. The Anambra State government has said it won't risk the lives of children and students by reopening schools during the coronavirus pandemic that has affected over 10,000 people in Nigeria. The State Commissioner for Basic Education, Professor Kate Omenora, made this known while speaking with journalists in Oka, adding that the decision not to open schools came from the federal government. Omenora also urged teachers to focus on online education and stop pressuring the state government about reopening schools, as that won't happen until the federal government gives such directives. Recall that the federal government had said that schools in Nigeria will remain shut, stating that as far as schools are concerned, it is better to remain cautious to avoid the continuous spread of the viral infection. Moving on to the international scene. Italy reopened to travelers from Europe 3 months after the country went into coronavirus lockdown, with all hopes pinned on reviving the key tourism industry as the summer season begins. Italy was the first European country to be hit by the coronavirus and has officially reported more than 33,000 deaths. It imposed an economically crippling lockdown in early March and has since seen its contagion numbers drop off dramatically. With the country facing its deepest recession since World War II, it needs foreigners to return, and quickly. Meanwhile, some global companies are considering shifting some of their treasury operations out of Hong Kong as the United States moves to end the city's privileges. A senior banker said in the latest blow to the territory's status as a major financial hub, U.S. President Donald Trump has begun the process of eliminating special U.S. treatment for Hong Kong to punish Beijing's decision to impose new national security laws there, which China and Hong Kong say will not hurt rights and freedom. Against the backdrop, a handful of global firms are eyeing a move of some of their corporate treasury operations to countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand and Vietnam. Moving on to sports news, Nigeria footballer Odion Ighalo has reacted to the extension of his loan at Manchester United despite the coronavirus pandemic, and according to him, he is living the dream. Recall that the Nigerian international, a lifelong United fan, joined the club on loan from Shanghai Shenhua in January during the COVID-19 situation then prevailing in China. But the virus then spread to Europe and brought the Premier League season to a halt in mid-March. It looked then as if the 30-year-old's career with United might amount to just 8 games, given his original deal was due to expire on 31st of May. But ahead of the Premier League season resuming on June 17th, United said they had agreed with Xinhua to extend Ighalo's loan move until January. Well, that's where we draw the curtain for this edition of the News on the Hour. I want to thank you profusely for watching. I am Zubechi Frank. Bye-bye.